All right, y'all, I made a video a few weeks ago about the Civil War that might be upcoming in the near future here. And you might recall that there are some things that can be done in order to prevent some sort of conflict that feels like it's brewing in American culture right now. But we're just not seeing that, right? So when it came to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, we didn't see all the leaders of the Democrat Party and everyone else going like, we called everyone who doesn't agree with us like a fascist, and everyone is like extreme and far right, right? We're sorry, we're going to retract those statements, and we're going to say that they're just slightly evil and not completely and totally Hitler reincarnated on that side, right? We haven't seen that kind of rhetoric, that kind of like apologetical, like, oops, we screwed up. And we've seen plenty of doubling down and even assassination celebrations. Anyway, I was rewatching Steven Crowder's most recent Change My Mind, and he basically put it into terms that I'm not going to be able to do any better myself, like the current state of the West in the United States, and basically hit all of the big topics at the end of the first segment, talking with this one girl. So to give you some context, I'll just jump in every few seconds here and there. I believe he went to SMU in Dallas, and he set up his little shop there, and he said this a few times throughout their production, but basically he had to hire like a huge security team and get bulletproof glass, and he didn't feel safe mentioning the location until a few hours before, mainly because of his own safety. Now, a thing that he mentions time and time again throughout the video is that people have tried to shut him down, and this is why he stopped going, is they would be violent. He basically said they would use like projectiles like milkshake rocks and like bricks and such like that and just throw it at them. And he could only take so much of that before he started to really fear for his life, hence why he didn't do it anymore. Of course, he's doing this after Charlie Kirk's assassination, but he says multiple times like he had to hire a $250,000 team to make sure the premises was safe, and it's not a luxury that most of us could afford to just be able to sit down and have a conversation in safety from the left. So without further ado, we'll let Steven take it away.
Where do you think those on the right go, where we go, hold on a second, we're actually sitting down and having conversations, and we've been attacked and in some cases killed. Right. And then you came to the memorials and the vigils, and you celebrated it. A majority of people on the left, not all, not yourself, but too many celebrated it.
I don't celebrate death
no,
in that way.
But many did, and we both know that we saw it.
I know you're right,
and then you came and blamed us and said we need to tone it down, and told us that we're more violent with clearly dishonest stats. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why I say that both sidesing it doesn't help, because you're backing people into a corner, not you, the left, with lies. At a certain point, they're going to push back. And I'm trying to avoid that.
Yeah, so what do you think the answer is then?
I'll tell you what I think the answer is, twofold. One, the leadership of the left and the majority of the left. I think that the majority of people who identify as liberal, the reason you get those numbers 62 to 65, depending on the day.
Okay, first interjection. What he's roughly talking about is a YouGov poll. It's listed on his website. I didn't really like the way that they did it on the website, but he's basically saying that 62% of liberals or very liberal people were justifying violence against their political adversaries. Now, of course, what I'm showing you here is on the Cato Institute website. I'll put a link in the description. But it says that strong liberals say violence against the rich can be justified, right? So dark blue being sometimes justified and light blue being no, never justified, right? Very conservative and conservative both agree 8 or 9%, which even though 1 out of 10 is not really great, it's actually a lot higher than I thought it would be. It's still nowhere near the 18% at moderate and ridiculous 54% at very liberal. There are more very liberal people who justify violence against the rich than not. That's fucking crazy to me.
Whether it's Rutgers or whether it's YouGov, I think they support political violence to varying degrees, because they actually believe that those on the right are fascist, are Nazis, are genocidists, are racist, are homophobic, are sexist, because every single member of the Democratic leadership has said so. Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Walz, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, every single one has made that comparison. I think it's incumbent upon the left to take accountability, say, look, we have gone too far here. This needs to be toned down.
And he's completely right. Look what's happened. Look at what's become the typical slogan for the Democrats, right? It's so typical to hear, look, they're all fascists. You can't let them get into power. They're running on hate. They're running on racism, all that fucking bullshit, right? Hate for illegals, hate for universal this, universal that, right? They want to take away your public services. And did we see them retract any of those statements? No, obviously not. They're going to continue to do that because that's, well, their entire platform at this time. But I mean, can you imagine what would happen to the Democrat Party if they said, okay, we've kind of gone a little bit too far. This is kind of getting a little too far to the left and it's not popular. We're going to have to go back to reality. That's just, if you're the one that tries to suggest change in the Democrat Party now as a leader, you're the one whose head gets put on a pike, metaphorically, of course.
Of course, Donald Trump and his voters are not fascists who won't relinquish power, because he can't deal with fascists at a ballot box. And then I think we also need to, states need to take this upon them, need to change their soft on crime policy, the no cash bail, the IOU policy, where you can simply say, I'll be back in court. Before Charlie Kirk, right, the story in the news was Zarutska, the Ukrainian refugee who was stabbed on that subway in North Carolina by a black man, Carlos Brown Jr. He was let out 14 times. And the last time he was let out by a left judge in the name of social justice, he was deemed unfit to stand trial, but they let him go back out into society. because he said he'd be back. Said he killed an innocent woman. You know why? Because, hey, justice is racist. I don't know when it becomes racist, if it's at arrest number 11 or 14 or 6. But that needs to change.
And I mean, he's completely right here, right? If someone can't stand trial and he's getting let back out on the street, I mean, what are we doing? This guy's a clear public threat, and he took it out on someone, right? I mean, if we're trying to sit here and explain this to people, the fact that this is not outrageous and drawing outrage to the fact that someone was let out in the double digits amount of times for a violent crime is just absolutely ridiculous, right? Oh yeah, no, this guy was a violent guy. He wasn't fit to stand trial. We're going to let him, out and back in the streets because he said he'll be back. It's just like they're trying to get people to do crime at this point, right? Cause disruption to society. And who do you think is doing it?
Those two things, accountability, change in rhetoric, ownership from the left, which will change the makeup of today's left, make us safer, and needs to change soft on crime policy. And I also advocate that conservatives take an approach of ruthless, lawful self-defense, because we've afforded grace where it is not warranted. What I mean by that is people who attack me and my family, and many of my production members who've been attacked, violently assaulted, have taken the high road for a very long time, and that's why these people feel so bold to come to our memorials and still commit attacks.
Okay, so I'm not in love with the way that they phrase this. We need ruthless self-defense, right? It kind of sounds like he's advocating for something. If you're, it's giving something to the left to kind of say, oh, he's advocating for it, right? Obviously, people with common sense know that he's not saying that. He's saying that we should be very firm in our self-defense and use it when applicable. But you also have to remember this is the context, and this is the important part that's not in the video, unless you watch the whole thing. The dude has been attacked in public at these Change My Minds. And so after 7 or 8 years, yeah, you're kind of going to want to cut the shit and start talking in those terms because you've been attacked so many times and you've seen it firsthand. So people who don't take that context into account are going to be like, oh my God, he's advocating for self-defense. He wants to hurt people. It's like, no, he's saying, let's just cut the shit. If they're going to attack us, we need to defend ourselves and stand firm instead of let them bully us over and use the kill them in their sleep kind of method. And when I say that, it's like that annoying kid when you're not looking, he's going to steal something from you, whether it be like a cookie or something else. But if you're watching him, he knows that you're stronger than him, so he's not going to try to make an attempt on it. It's just like typical kill them in their sleep behavior. Only when they're not looking, this is my opportunity to go get it, even though I know it's wrong,
They need to know they can't do that. I want the left to be able to get up and have these conversations with no security, as they often do. And I don't want anyone on the right to go and violently disrupt it. The left needs to be afraid to come into our groups and commit acts of violence, because we watched entire cities burn down. We watched our own die, and then we watched it celebrated. And unless the left does this and takes this approach, it's going to get worse. There's no off-ramp. That's a genuine concern of mine.
Okay, and this is basically the best part of the video where he says there's no genuine off-ramp. That is so important because he's right. And this basically builds on what I was saying in that Civil War possibility video, is that because the left is choosing to opt and double down and not change the rhetoric and not say that, oops, we're sorry we kind of caused this indirectly because we've been labeling our opponents fascists and evil people for so long, rather than looking at their ideas and exchanging and kind of going to, verbal battle, we'll say, and trying to win in the verbal arena. What they've done is double down and say, nope, they're still fascists, they're still this, they're still XYZ. And it's like not even looking at the character of arguments, And because they're continuing to choose this, it's like, well, this is inching closer and closer and closer and closer to a point where, because they're choosing to live in this dis-reality, it's gonna eventually hit this point where they're gonna be openly attacking people, and it might be something like a civil war or like an internal conflict, and there might be skirmishes in the beginning, and because it's inching its way closer and closer and closer and closer, right, there's gonna be some line somewhere that's drawn where the right says, you know what, we fucking had it. Come keep trying to attack us. We're going to ruthlessly defend ourselves, right? We're sick of this bullshit, this typical child behavior of attack them when they're not looking, kill them in their sleep. But then when it comes to reality and confrontation, we just twirl our pigtails and hide behind the, ooh, I'm harmless, I have a skirt, So it keeps inching and inching and inching, and eventually it's going to hit here, right? Well, they've chosen not to take this off-ramp. And this off-ramp has gone way over on this side to years and years back, right? But this is the path they've chosen. And eventually something will happen. We're not going to see a change in behavior. That's very clear after this. And he's right, we're trying to prevent this from getting worse, but what can we really do on our side at this point?
People are concerned about radicalizing, right? They talk about radicalization with echo chambers online, and there's nothing more radicalizing than an assassination and a party afterwards.
I mean, that's basically what Twitter felt like for a little while. We were seeing all these people partying like he got assassinated. It's like, what fucking universe do these people live in?
Yes, no, I agree with you.
That's why I'm sitting down doing this. And to let people know that we're not afraid to have these conversations. Now, of course, we have bulletproof glass and a flak jacket, and it's sad that it's here.
Right.
But it's necessary. That's what I think.
Okay.
Would you disagree with any of those approaches? Changing the rhetoric, taking accountability, in stopping the soft on crime revolving door criminality policy?
Okay, that was the majority of the video. Now he's going to talk about and define what he would consider as like soft on crime and cashless bail kind of policies.
I don't want to.
No cashless bail.
No cashless bail.
Yeah, so you have to post bail.
Let's start with that.
Okay, you have to post bail.
You have to post bail.
You commit a violent crime, you have to post bail. You're in jail. You're not allowed out.
Okay, so no cashless bail, meaning you're not allowed to.
You're not allowed to get out without paying any bail.
Without paying any bail, and like
Three-strike policy as well.
Three-strike policy.
3 serious felonies, violent crimes.
Wait, hold on, bail though.
Yeah.
So you're saying if you can't make bail, you can't get out.
Yep. You have to wait for your trial.
No matter what the level of the crime is.
No, if it's a serious felony.
Only if it's a serious felony.
Let's even start with violent crimes.
Like
Felonies, violent
rape,
crimes?
something like that.
Assault, armed robbery,
Okay.
burglary, battery.
I think I could probably get behind that.
Okay.
I could probably get behind that.
Okay, so Steven puts his cards on the table here. Here's what you can tell. With the chick, though, she's not like the most intelligent person ever, right? She's got big balls for at least trying to get on this and sit there for half an hour with Steven. So kudos to her. This is not me like trying to rip on her for that. But you can see that like she probably comes off as like maybe like the average American, right? And thus when he kind of says these things, she's very hesitant to kind of go along with it. And for those of us who have been like paying attention, we kind of know like, okay, this should be outrageous that people are allowed out of prison, you know, when they've done something as fucking insane as a violent crime, right? Like when you do violent crimes, you're probably not sane, right? Robbery, assault, all the stuff that he had mentioned, right? Those are violent crimes. If you're desperate enough or you think that that's okay to do that, you're probably not fit for society generally, right? This is what's important. The chick is not fist pump going, hell yeah, they should be like that, right? She's kind of a little bit confused, a little bit like doesn't want to be put on the spot to like make a decision right then and there, right? And of course, I get it. When you're on camera, it can be a little bit much to kind of do it when you're on the spot like that, right? But these are like serious fucking crimes that you would hope that if you had a son or daughter that they would never have to face, right? And you can reduce those odds by putting those people in prison and keeping them there if they're fucking insane enough to do that in the first place. So when people get out 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11 times and then they take someone's life, yes, it's very sad, but that was like 8 strikes too late, you know?
Not a single leader in the Democratic Party is. Why?
And he's right. The Dems are not the ones who are like leading the charge and being like, yeah, we need to clean up our streets and make sure that this shit doesn't happen again. They're the ones that are propagating this, right? And the ones that are letting these people out on the street again after they've done something terrible.
Yeah.
So we could get behind that. No IOU policy for these criminals. You're deemed meant. Let's use DeCarlos Brown Jr. as a very clear example. We could use George Floyd as an example, too. He was arrested 6 or 9 times.
Okay, friends, and the final parting message. George Floyd was let out quite a few times, right? Here's the difference we've seen. When it came to the peaceful protests of 2020 and the summer of love, as people kind of say, we saw that the icon that the left chose to get behind was someone who was robbing people and put, like, what, a gun to someone's baby or something like this? Or, like, to someone's womb, which is fucking terrible. No sane person who's semi-intelligent is going to do that. But they chose to make this guy their icon and go apeshit and cause huge amounts of damage because that would totally fix the problem, right? And that's what they chose to do. They chose destruction and trying to get behind a martyr who's really not even a good person or a good martyr. I'm not saying the guy should have died, and I'm happy for his death because, you know, violence is bad and you don't want other people to die. But when you're someone who's robbing people and putting guns to people's stomach, that's not a good person. 5 years later, when we have Charlie Kirk's assassination, what did we see? Did we see peaceful protests? Did we see billions of dollars in damage? No. I guess what we should be calling this is violent protests because nothing was destroyed, because we love to change the words around apparently, right? So with all the violent protests of the right, you know, which resulted in no damage, we saw lots of mourning and, like, you know, vigils. And guess what? They still came to desecrate those too, right? This is the state of our country right now. When we tell our grandkids about this in 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, we're going to have to try to sit there with a straight face and tell people that, yeah, this is kind of what happened, right? And this is part of the reason I made this YouTube channel, because it's easy to forget things over the course of history. But if you have kind of like a time capsule of things as they're happening, you can kind of show them the passion of the moment and make sure that they don't forget how we got this far to this point in society and what led up to what will probably happen. Or maybe I'm wrong, something will not happen, but we're not seeing the off-ramp being taken by the left.